that speaks volumes about his willingness to go to the gutter at the drop of a hat. And part of the reason is Donald's not comfortable talking about policy.
Ted Cruz yesterday calling Donald Trump's attacks on Heidi Cruz gutter politics. Trump's attacks come after an ad from a pro-Cruz super PAC showed nude images of Melania Trump from her appearance in British GQ magazine back in 2000. The attack basically saying that Melania is unfit to be First Lady. But today, the attacks continue. Trump tweeted out this image comparing and contrasting the two women, saying images are worth 1,000 words. Ted Cruz didn't take it sitting down. He tweeted back saying this: real men don't attack women. So what about the War of the Wives? Let's bring in our media panel. From Newsmax Washington, political editor for the National Journal, Josh Kraushaar, and Skyping in from our nation's capital, political reporter for The Hill, Cate with a C, Martel. Ladies first, Cate, your take on the War of the Wives.
Well, JD, this commences the insult your opponent's family as part of the program, and usually this happens later on, but what I do have to say is that every 4 years, I feel like we have the same discussion. Are wives fair game when it comes to the election? And it usually comes down to how much you see those spouses on the stump for their husbands. But, you know, Melania and Heidi Cruz have both been kind of out of the mix for a lot of this election. So the fact that we're starting to see them go after and seeing pictures and discussing their looks in March, and we're already in an early part of the campaign, that I guess it comes down to wives have to be fair game, whether it's good or bad.
Well, they certainly have become a portion of the campaign, and there's something else at work too, Josh. You know, for a long time, Ted Cruz or those affiliated with him, PACs, whatever, using some sharp elbows. And I just wonder, you know, Donald Trump has said, "Wait a minute, Ted, you're into the gutter yourself." Ted Cruz said, "Look, I'm not associated with a super PAC. I have some overzealous volunteers," yet he blamed Donald Trump a couple of weeks back for what went on in Chicago. I understand there is going to be back and forth in a campaign, but does Trump have a point about Cruz?
Well, look, wives should be off limits, no matter if it's a super PAC airing the ads or whether it's coming from the campaign or the candidate themselves. This is definitely gutter politics, and Trump, frankly, carries more to blame because he is the principal, he is the candidate, and to really just smear Ted Cruz's wife really is a new low blow in politics. But consider that we're talking about Ted Cruz and Donald Trump's wives at a time when Europe is in the midst of a horrible terrorist attack, and these candidates for the Republican nomination need to show their commander-in-chief credentials. I mean, this just hurts the party as a whole, and it hurts Cruz and Trump. Trump's favorability ratings are already in the toilet. Cruz's needs to make a showing among both Republicans and the overall electorate that are starting to pay close attention to his campaign. And when they're hearing this back and forth over insults over both of their wives and responses in the gutter like we're seeing, it just undermines both of them politically.
Yeah, although I wonder if there's a wisdom behind this in terms of the fact in journalism, especially in TV, it's like water cooler chat. What are people talking about? And people identify with spouses and standing up for them. So your point about wives being left out of the equation, I think, hits home with many people, Josh. Now, with a minute and a half left, I want to bring to your attention, both of you, a very interesting report. Reporters for National Public Radio were reportedly sent to hostile environments training in response to the violence occurring at some Trump rallies. Cate, I got to tell you, I find this a little rich, especially with the rent-a-mobs in Chicago and in Fountain Hills, Arizona. Do you think this kind of training is necessary?
You know, I can't blame NPR for wanting to train their people. I've seen a lot of reporters. I've been covering Donald Trump for a while, and from going to all of his rallies, we've kind of seen a lot of this violence kind of stewing up for the past few months. It's only been covered probably since the winter, but from early to mid-fall, we've been seeing protesters kicked out pretty violently. And during the same time, Donald Trump calls out the media and how evil they are and calls on over 1,000 people at his rallies to turn around and boo them. We're not that far from hypothetical violence happening that I can't blame NPR for wanting to equip their reporters with violence training.
All right, final 15 seconds to you, Josh. Good or bad?
Look, it's important to keep things into perspective. I've covered dozens of Trump rallies. It's important to know that, I mean, as crazy as they've been, that it's not like going to Syria or going to the Middle East or going to genuine war zones. I think NPR overreacted a little bit, and it's always good to keep your campaign reporters with tools to how to handle a controversial situation.
Fair enough. You have our
thanks. Do it the
thanks.
way they did, overboard. Exactly.
Back with more after this.